Welcome to the latest episode of Vector Space Talk. I am joined today by Charlie Greenman from Razroo. Hey, Charlie, how's it going?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Actually, NVIDIA GTC this week, so seeing a lot
Cool.
of stuff at the conference there. But right now, I'm excited to talk to you about Razroo. So why don't we just start off very quickly? Give me the elevator pitch for Razroo.
Razroo is AI simulations and synthetic data. A lot of AI results that we have currently don't necessarily give the correct results. So what we're doing is we're using AI to create data at scale, and then we allow for humans to then go in to perfect. And so we have this human AI workflow, and we have integrations for every product. Right now we have code, we have projects where users are able to integrate synthetic data, and that's been polished by humans. And so we have an AI assistant that's rolling out, but that's really the pitch. We have a history pre-AI, and we're sort of been changing a lot of what we do in this AI age, particularly around synthetic data and simulations. And we have an insights app also that we're rolling out as a result of the synthetic data we have at scales and AI simulations, unique things we can do with graph rags and vector databases, partially why we're a big fan of Qdrant and the like. That would pretty much be it. AI simulations and synthetic data.
Very
Are
nice. Yeah, we'll definitely dig in a little more. I love something that you just mentioned, which is before AI, pre-AI. We'll
Yes,
definitely be digging into what you mean by that. But
yes,
before we talk a little more about Razroo, I wanted to talk about a new framework that I've been seeing pick up some popularity. And this is a framework called Mastra. It's from
sure.
the creators of Gatsby, which, if you're not familiar, is a little bit like Next, where it's a website builder that allows people who don't necessarily have the chops to just cook up a website really easily. And now they're
Cool.
releasing this TypeScript agent framework, which is exciting for me because now you can do all your AI stuff in TypeScript.
Yeah.
Whereas before you had to deploy your Python backend somewhere, connect it to a front end. Now you can just do it all on the front end in TypeScript. So I'm curious, what has your experience been when you're trying to build these apps mixing TypeScript with Python? Do you have any preferences for deploying full stack apps? What's your
Yeah.
experience been?
First and foremost, I love the Gatsby team. The Razroo blog actually uses Gatsby, so
Beautiful.
yeah, I'm a big fan.
Can't make
But
it out.
the with regards to the TypeScript agent framework, definitely we use TypeScript for all of our AI workflow. We actually have zero Python being run anywhere for any of our AI workflows, with the exception of training open source models, if and when it's needed.
And why are you using Python to train those open source models?
That would be because there aren't there just at that point there are no robust enough frameworks
Yep.
to do what's needed, like TensorFlow and PyTorch. Those are really PyTorch. That's it. And there's nothing really that's on that level yet. And for us, we've always written in Node.js
Yeah.
APIs for the longest time. And that was just because my background was in front end. And then ended up going to back end about 7 years ago.
Hmm.
And then I ended up bringing a bunch of engineers into the Razroo team,
Yeah.
and I trained like 3 or 4 of them. So we just had a giant TypeScript Node.js team, and then when AI came around, we just ended up building everything in TypeScript and Node.js. And it's been honestly a fantastic process,
Hmm.
especially with AWS and Lambda. We're able to,
Yeah.
in step functions, just able to fan everything out. Super simple, super robust. We're able to create our scripts in TypeScript.
Hmm.
They're able to do data crawling and synthetic data creation and whatever
Yeah.
we need. So, with regards to Masha, I think it would be something that I would be excited to use. I am. It reminds me a little bit. It reminds me a little bit of LangChain, a little
Okay.
bit, and I am a little bit cautious because I did try LangChain a little bit,
Yeah.
and I do feel like some of those things that are in that framework are a bit not needed. Like just
Hmm.
looking at Masha, like I'm just or Master rather,
Yeah.
looking at there are some things here such as I don't need anything with regards to RAG, to be
Yeah.
honest, that
Yeah.
they're providing. So that entire section with regards to their agent workflows, I think I might use that
Yeah.
in order to learn how agents and their workflow works. That's probably the one piece I'm really interested in.
Yeah.
I might end up rolling my own because I might see their agent workflow to be a bit too restrictive.
Yeah.
So this would be, it reminds me a lot of LangChain. I think the agent piece definitely would be potentially interesting if there's something that they continue down that path and they offer that
Yeah.
nobody else can offer, then great. Like I think maybe they should go down the maybe like the operator way of things, where maybe
Yeah.
they're now extracting interactive elements on the page and they're
Yeah.
just now allowing those agents. And I think then that would be a more robust framework. Which yeah, I don't want to build my own data crawler and way of scraping interactive elements.
Yeah, it doesn't sound very fun at all.
Yeah,
You mentioned a few things I want to kind of point out. First of all, we love AWS. You can use Qdrant
nice.
with AWS. We actually just did an event with them to promote using AWS GPU instances to power your indexing with Qdrant GPU powered
Wow.
indexing.
Wow.
So you can get 10 times faster speed by using AWS GPUs, NVIDIA or AMD. And then the other thing you mentioned there that I thought was interesting is just this idea of kind of tools becoming more and more customizable and niche. And I think that that's where you start to really see the value of having technical knowledge, because people who don't have the technical knowledge just have to use whatever master gives them.
Mhm.
Whereas someone like you can go in and say, well, I'm going to use a scalpel to surgically cut the pieces I need. And
Right.
also, I maybe have like this fab gun where I can build the pieces I need and then create this kind of perfect Frankenstein, like you mentioned with the Node.js situation at Razroo.
Yeah.
And that brings me right back to Razroo. So you gave us a quick elevator pitch. And one of the things you mentioned is that you've been around since before AI. So can you just elaborate a bit on how did Razroo get started and how did you end up where you are now?
Yeah. So my background's in software. Been doing that for about 10 plus years or whatever. And with regards to Razroo, that company was started about 6, 7 years ago. And that vision was really once again, pre AI days. And by that, what I mean is that we wanted to create this concept of AI before AI. So you would structure the way people can contribute information. It would be like a Wikipedia, but for very specific categories. So for project management and for code. And so we allow people to upload specific snippets and then everything gets pieced together into a project. We currently have that technology with Razroo. For our project management, we have the ability to upload tickets. And so we wanted to allow humans to easily contribute at scale, like millions and millions and millions of items, and then to have a review system in place and a monetization in place, and then allow people to then use that and integrate it natively. So like code editor plugin for the code, and to have a Jira sibling for project management, and to have a Figma sibling for the design. And that was really a novel pre-AI idea. And then once AI happened, this is why we're so interested in synthetic data now, is that we're able to create literally millions of tickets and snippets of code, and we're able to do what would have taken maybe 10,000 humans to do our pre-AI idea. And so it's really now we're just really every single time that we find a use case where like maybe we should bring in humans, but like let's try and bring the AI to the next level, and then the AI can do it. And so we just find ourselves now just going deeper and deeper and deeper down the synthetic data and AI simulations rabbit hole, which that's our belief is now that synthetic data can really pull off data for all things, and that there's way more new categories that we should be focusing on beyond just data contribution and the like. I'm sorry, I think your audio for some reason.
Sorry. I think the way that people are thinking about data is definitely going to change. Yesterday at GTC, Jensen was basically talking about this idea how relational databases are kind of going to die because all data is going to become super high dimensionality.
Mhm.
And yes, you'll need your relational database for storing certain data, but in terms of AI, the way that we think about data storage is going to have to completely change. And that brings me into Qdrant, which is what Razroo uses to do a lot of these operations. So you mentioned, for example, you guys are handling a pretty large volume of data.
Right.
Talk a little bit about how you're using Qdrant to do all that.
Yeah. So two of our products in particular, we really love Qdrant or Quadrant, sorry.
No worries.
So yeah, so I've been mispronouncing that for a long time. So Quadrant. One thing that's great about Quadrant's architecture is that it allows you to actually store all the items on a global level and to actually access them all using quantizing data and there's a binary, all these various techniques. And so that we're able to actually use that synthetic data and we're actually
Hmm.
to get insights off of them. One unique thing that Qdrant does over a lot of other vector databases is that in order to get this performance with other vector databases, you have to like kind of namespace and siphon off your divide things.
Yep.
So we needed that architecture for Qdrant. That's number one. And then number two is that definitely from a speed perspective, we have an AI assistant that we're currently rolling out. And this helps also for the AI simulations and the actual creation of synthetic data, because we use other synthetic data to create new synthetic data or synthetic data creation.
Yeah.
So Qdrant's about 1 second faster than the other ones that we've tried. And so for our AI assistant, one of the things we're currently rolling out is task performing AI. So you can ask them and say, I would like you to search for houses. I would like you to move this card over to the next column. And with Qdrant, we're actually able to bring that API call time up to under a second. So it kind of feels really native. Someone says search for hello, happen. I would like you to move this card to the next column, happen. Versus if it was with some other platform that would use them, I'm really not sure if I should name them. I'm sure it's pretty public, more or less. But it takes about 2 seconds for the first action, 2 seconds for the next one. And I felt personally with that 2 second lag, I started to get frustrated. So Qdrant really enabled a production grade AI assistant even in this stage.
Yeah.
And doing some really interesting things with performance and cost with Qdrant as well. And then with the AI simulations, we're able to really, from a performance perspective, we are shaving off 1 second across millions of API calls and various functions that happen in between.
Yeah.
But really just also being able to access the entire vector globally and in a matter of 3 seconds also has been it's been great. So those are the two pieces with Qdrant. Really it's been fantastic.
So Qdrant just released, well, I shouldn't say just, it was almost 5 months ago now, released our MCP server. And I've heard you mention AI assistant, and I really like that phrase because the phrase AI agent and agentic workflow and agent stuff is becoming so popular. So can you talk a little bit more in detail? What does your AI assistant do, and why are you choosing to call it an assistant as opposed to an agent?
Yeah, I think for me, the main reason is that a lot of agents, I think in them sort of as like operators, where you go into some application, you click on your agent, and then it opens up some external source, and then it starts going through that and start doing X, Y, Z. And it's kind of a weird interface. I'm using some other website via some other website using the agent and operator itself. So for me, as a let's use AI to speed up my workflow and to make things much easier and to interface using AI, using either voice or text, do whatever.
Yeah.
That was really an assistant. So an assistant can do multiple things on a page, but from an agent perspective, it doesn't feel like I can just let it go behind the scenes and do whatever. To me, that's really what an agent should be. I think if you need a client, I feel like to run an agent, I feel like at that point, it's an assistant. It's not an agent. If you can have something run in the background and say, file my taxes for me or order the food from the supermarket, like Anton from Silicon Valley, then I think then that would be for whoever is familiar with that. Then I think that to me makes a lot more sense.
Yeah. And can you tell me a bit about what kind of heuristics were you thinking about when you chose this suite of products? Because you've got the AI ticketing system, you've got this synthetic code generation, and then you've also got the AI assistant. And I'm just curious, how did you pick those three?
Yeah, absolutely. And really what it comes down to is that the synthetic data and the AI workflows that we have as a result are sometimes so overwhelming for people that we needed this AI assistant to simplify the UX.
Yeah.
So what I found was, and that's it. And we ended up simplifying the UX to the nth degree possible. We made it look exactly like other applications that they're used to. And we still found them being like, holy smokes, 100 tickets were created at the same time. I have no idea what's going on. So our AI, for instance, in addition to being able to answer questions about what's going on at the page, also has an automated walkthrough. because that's
Yeah.
often one of the things that users are asking for.
Yeah, I actually need to talk to you because I'm working on something with my brother where we're basically building an AI assistant that helps you not only in your job search, but also once you've landed a job, hit the ground running. And one of the features we want to add is uploading your resume, uploading a dream job, and then being able to break down the project that would get you closer to getting that job into little chunks that you could eat, right? So a ticket system, basically. So I think Razroo, the AI assistant plus the ticketing system might be great for that project in order to
Yeah,
give people like a structure for how to create a project that can get them hired.
yeah, I think I've on that point, I think there's gonna already the market is becoming like so saturated with there's like another agent and AI assistant, like 30 of them popping up every day because I just think
Mm,
that that's sort of the new user interface.
yeah.
Second of all, with regards to resumes and AIs, I myself have been using AI for like multiple contract applications and stuff, and absolutely fantastic idea. And I think that one of the pieces there are a couple pieces missing with that workflow, and
Yeah.
definitely I think in likewise, AI assistance in that regard could be useful for an existing job application website where you're authenticated already, and then you just sort of go in and versus these AI applications where it requires a verification code or something like that.
Yeah,
But
no.
but
I
yeah,
love I love that. Especially because you were mentioning earlier kind of that human in the loop, which is another part that we're interested in bringing in so that it's not just AI judging the work, but at some point there's a human involved as well.
yeah. That's what I feel. I feel like assistant is if you have a human involved assistant. If you don't have a human involved, it's an agent. And
Yeah.
agents right now are really more so like assistants.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense to me now. Definitely have to reach out to you to talk about that in more
Yeah,
detail.
more than happy to help
Yeah.
or be
So
of
one
assistance.
question I have for you, this is kind of a bit of a curveball, or not a curveball, but a topic change.
Sure.
What advice would you have to the youth out there? Let's say I'm in high school right now, I'm going into college, and I'm interested in this AI stuff. Maybe I've never coded before. Where would you recommend people start?
Good question. I would start with right now vibe coding is a great really should introduce people to vibe coding. It's like, how do you code? Let me give you vibe coding.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would start really with just a simple to-do app, and I
Hmm.
would start with HTML, CSS, TypeScript, and I would probably just start with React. I think for a lot of people that are starting these new projects, it
Yeah.
probably makes more of a difference for them to actually get their first thing working than
Hmm.
actually have the fundamentals down. I think
Yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah. Just get that ball moving,
yeah,
basically.
exactly. That's I think for a lot of us who have coding backgrounds and computer science backgrounds, a lot of us kind of got interested off of that first amazing
That
function.
first hit of dopamine.
Exactly. And then once you're at that point, then if you're in college, it's a completely different track. If you're not in college, it's a completely different track. One's more, hey, let me show you that I can actually pull this stuff off, and the other one is really just following the internship and the
Yeah.
um and just getting your first career that way and pursue your career.
Yeah.
That's it. So yeah, really just focus on a basic HTML, TypeScript application. Create a simple to-do app. Follow a tutorial. Use Cursor tools like Cursor,
Yeah.
just to give a little bit more variety out there. To vibe code, and it's a legitimate way of learning now with this AI and coding. We're able to then ask it and say, "What does this code do?" And it's a much quicker way of learning than me had. When I started off, I had to read books.
Yeah, no, dude, Stack Overflow was not fun.
Yeah, Stack Overflow wasn't fun, and sometimes the questions you wanted weren't there, and it just
Yeah. And then you had to ask a question. You had to do the whole trick where you answered it wrong to get people to jump in.
yeah, there was no
It
such
was
thing as like a cloud provider back then. You have to set up your own server. That was it if you want to deploy something.
the kids nowadays don't know about IAM rules, man.
There you
Yeah. And then on that same token, what about someone who maybe wants to get a job at Razroo, a little more experienced, but they're looking to kind of get that AI engineering gig? What are the things that you're looking to see on people's profiles when they're applying to work at Razroo?
Someone who I would say this is actually so my hiring criteria generally is a little bit different than others, and I actually think the YC founders that do this also, and I think they're kind of on the right track.
Mm-hmm.
Which is I like seeing that someone does have experience with the technologies that we use.
Yeah.
So as soon as someone says AWS, Node.js, and TypeScript and unit testing, then I know already that's the real deal.
Mm-hmm.
Then what I'll do next is I like looking actually at their GitHub, and I'll use some other factors to determine, is this actually someone who outputs?
Yeah.
That has been, and then I'll look at a couple of other things. Do I want to make sure that they're a good team player or
Huh.
whatever, it doesn't matter as
Yeah.
much.
Maybe try to get some references, things like that.
Yeah, exactly. So I would say really just if you're generally someone who's a builder and you like coding and you're someone who wants to do it as for a job,
Yeah.
and you'd be surprised at how rare that actually is. Like you can see someone who's gone to Harvard and has a computer science job or whatever, and you go to their GitHub and it's like 200 commits per year.
Mm-hmm.
Versus the people that I really like are the people you go there and it's like, wow, 1,700 commits per year, and
Yeah.
you have like two or three hobbies. Like this is something you really enjoy
Mm-hmm.
aside, and we can work together and really do some amazing stuff.
Yeah.
That's it. We're not doing any research. Maybe if we were OpenAI or Quadrant and we were doing research or something like that for performance, maybe we'd
Mm-hmm.
be more interested in the Harvard or MIT folks.
Yeah.
But we're more so of the building types these days of
Yeah. You're not like in
non-research.
the, sorry, you're not in the leak code. You're in the more practical, what have you built, put out on the internet, not
Yeah,
localhost. Show me a
yeah, build
website.
exactly.
Yeah, beautiful. And then one question I ask all our guests, if let's just say someone out there is looking for a startup or project idea, do you have any ideas that you think would be good uses of time?
Yes, and actually, we use our synthetic data right now for a new platform we're rolling out called Insights,
Okay.
which actually is able to extract good business ideas. And I have many ideas. To me, the most exciting ones, and if there are any entrepreneurs out there in AI interested in building something, I would challenge you to think beyond the current workflow of apps at the moment. There
Okay.
are many AI enabling technologies, I think particularly around visualization and virtual and like synthetic data and AI simulations, I think is, for instance, one of the stuff we're working on
Yeah.
in that category. But just being able to create these new paradigms and new workflows so that you can really advance society at just a really wonderful, beautiful way. And I think Quadrant's kind of one of those companies that enables that with its technology. And
Yeah.
honestly, GraphRag perhaps with Quadrant was a little bit easier to implement. I think that would also be, we should not easier to implement, but it's just we should definitely talk more about GraphRag because I think
Yeah.
definitely within the context of, for instance, synthetic data and simulations, it makes all the difference. And I think it's
Yep.
something you guys can like knock out.
No, we're working with Neo4j to get a official integration because GraphRag is something that a lot of people have been asking us about, and I
Yeah,
love that answer that you gave in terms of because I've come from a data science background, right?
right.
And one thing that kind of fascinates me is we haven't figured out a really good way to visualize the LLMs yet, right? Like most of these, I guess, debugging tools, if you, well, it'll show you the trace, maybe it'll show you what ran, but we haven't really figured out a good way to visualize them yet. And now I'm kind of fascinated in terms of like, who's going to figure out the LLM visualization tool?
Exactly.
That's a
And I
pretty
really,
big market.
it is. And I do feel kind of like GraphRag is probably
GraphRag.
what to do,
Yeah.
which is that you're able to extract the similarities between
Yeah.
and conceptual models are now becoming very popular, which
Uh,
is instead of
yeah.
classic LLM word by word,
College graph, all that stuff.
exactly, are just able to create sentences and how they relate to each other.
Yep.
GraphRag in that sense as well, if you're able to figure out how does all the information in the corpus relate to each other, and then we're able to then train on that potentially and conceptualize and maybe even do that in real time. So it's just an
Yeah.
exciting space, and there's so much you can layer on top. As soon as the reason I'll stop here because I'm getting too excited, but the reason,
No, get excited.
yeah, awesome. The reason I love, and honestly, I am talking to some founders in the space already. But it's super exciting, and I would love to be involved in it somehow.
Yeah.
But the thing I get super excited about is visualization of LLMs, which honestly I do think GraphRag type architecture will have a big play in it is that if AI gets to the point to where, let's say right now, the fastest AI via Grok or whatever can do something in like 0.3 seconds or whatever.
Yeah.
If things keep advancing, we can potentially run an AI 1,000, 5,000 times in a second, which is
Yeah. Yeah.
no human is able to visualize that. So if you can have something like Graph and you have these 5,000 items in front of you,
Yeah.
modifying themselves in real time, now you're actually giving humans an interface pre-Neuralink.
hmm
All that's assuming humans want a Neuralink on their head.
Yeah.
So pre-Neuralink, you're giving a way for people to keep up with AI. So that's why I'm so excited with the visualization aspect.
Yeah.
What is the insane amount of things that I can do if I just visualize all of them and say, real time, like, okay, Jarvis kind of reminds me of Tony Stark and Jarvis.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. I was thinking Case, but same idea from Interstellar. When he's like, turn your honesty level down or whatever. It's
Yeah. Top three movie of all time.
Oh yeah, gotta love some Interstellar. Very
Yeah.
cool. Okay, so Charlie, is there anything else Razroo related or Charlie related that you want to mention that we didn't cover today?
Honestly, nothing really. I'm just excited. Honestly, what I'm most excited about is robotics. I would love to just
Okay,
see where that
let's
goes.
talk robotics for a second, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
So, what excites you about robotics?
I think just the ability for anybody to create robotics. The robotics foundry idea is something I would love to work on.
The democratization of robots, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Like you create a robotics foundry slash, let's call it like it's equivalent of a data warehouse for robotics. And I'm able to work remotely on whatever prototype or hardware, or whatever I want. And then it's super cheap because it's in some remote location right next to a forest and a lake,
Yeah,
materials.
yeah.
And then I'm able to then ship that prototype after it's complete to me. If it works, then I go to manufacturing and produce that mass scale. So I just get excited about that idea because with humanoid robots and robot foundry, we can
Yeah,
integrate hardware
yeah.
into what software is today. And so
I,
once we
I
get there, there's yeah.
I love this because I'm thinking about accessibility. Like so many people just are kind of stifled in life because they're depending on, for example, someone to drive them somewhere, maybe public transportation to come pick them up, and the routes aren't as popular because a special car needs to come pick them up, whatever it might be. I think robots are really going to open up accessibility because now all of a sudden anyone can get anywhere, especially if we can get them to that point where they're cheap and it's not just a luxury
Yeah.
item.
I mean, if
That'll
they
be
could take
incredible.
care of my parents in 10 years, that would be
Yeah, yeah, right. Like that would be a huge lift. And even just like being able to go hiking and not having to take a backpack with you, right? You can just throw it on your robot. I watched this guy
absolutely
on YouTube who he has like elk or deer or something,
okay.
some kind of mountain animal, and he takes it with him when he goes hiking and he'll
Okay,
throw the
cool.
pack on it. And I'm like,
Cool.
wow, that's genius. But if it was like robots that could do that and kind of help
Cool.
us out in our day-to-day life, yeah. The
Rediscover the
accessibility.
meal for the modern era.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Well, on that note, I just want to once again mention Charlie Greenman. Charlie, where can people
Find me.
let me do that one again, sorry.
Yeah.
All right, so thanks for joining us. Charlie, where can people find you? What are your socials? Anything you want to shout out?
My favorite place to talk with people is Razroo_chief on X/Twitter. And then my second favorite place is on LinkedIn at Charlie Greenman. So
Okay.
by all means, feel free to find me on Twitter. And that's where people can find me.
Awesome. And we will have links to all of Charlie's stuff in the description below. Make sure you're checking out Razroo. It
Qdrant.
is, yeah. And of course, make sure you check out Qdrant. We're going to have a blog and a repo that's coming out as well. So make sure that you keep your eyes peeled for that. Thanks for joining us, Charlie. I would love to do this again in the future.
Yeah, by
And
all means.
definitely be in touch about the ticketing system. All right. Take it easy, Charlie.
All right, likewise. All right. Bye.